A busy schedule for the president ahead of tonight's speech. Joining me now live with more on what people want to hear from the president is former Alexandria Mayor Kerry Donley, who is also the former chair of the Virginia Democratic Party. We also contacted both local and national Republicans, but unfortunately nobody was able to join us tonight. But Mr. Donley, we're glad to see you. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure, my pleasure. How are you tonight?
Scott, I'm doing well.
Good.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Let me ask you about something Scott Thurman said. He outlined all the things the president's expected to talk about tonight, but what do you want to hear from him? Well,
there is not one single solution. The president has already signed into law the economic stimulus package that gives 95% of taxpayers a tax cut. It's also investing in infrastructure, jobs, creation of 3.5 million jobs, or saving 3.5 million jobs. All of those things are important. That's one element. The president has also talked about stabilizing the financial industry, getting banks lending again, and also ensuring that the dollars that they accept from the federal government are not used for the perks and the big bonuses that we've been hearing about. I mean, that's a common sense solution. The president has also proposed a housing protection program to look at folks who are having trouble making their homes, their mortgage payments, their houses are underwater, saving those folks. And then I think we have to move on to reform. We've got to have meaningful, common sense reform of the financial industry that will ensure that when we get to a crisis like this, it's not the magnitude that we're facing today.
I asked this of Scott, and I'll ask it of you. Does he have to be more positive in talking about the economy than he's been in recent days? Late last week, former President Clinton even said that he'd like to hear President Obama be a little bit more upbeat as he's talking about the issues that the country faces.
Well, I think you can see by today there was some positive sort of spin coming out of the Federal Reserve that caused the market to jump up.
Ben Bernanke saying that he thinks the recession might, or the downturn might be over by the end of the year.
Right. We'll see. But I think what Americans want to hear is common sense financial policies, cutting the deficit in half by the end of his first term. We've seen roll-up of debt and deficit for the last 8 years. I don't think people are standing in line looking to use the Republicans' calculators these days. Cutting the debt is going to be something that I think Americans want to hear. I think they also want to see common sense financial practices, the pay-go practices where programs are going to be financed on a pay-as-you-go system instead of wrapping up and rolling up massive debt. Those are the common sense solutions that Americans expect, and I think they'll hear from the president tonight.
Is there anything else that he needs to say other than talking about the economy and his long-term plans for dealing with it? Is there anything else?
Yeah, one of the themes that we've heard over and over again from the president is this bipartisan approach, and he's reached out across the aisle to the Republicans. And you hear Bobby Jindal talking about, well, I'm not going to accept part of the stimulus package. I mean, that's going to put his state at a disadvantage. I think a lot of Americans want to see Republicans stepping up to the plate with their own ideas. We in Virginia would like to see Bob McDonnell, who's a Republican candidate for governor, speak specifically about whether he would accept the stimulus package money. There's a lot of infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, that Northern Virginians expect. And would solve our transportation problems. My guess is that Governor or potential Governor McDonnell would be accepting those dollars. But we want to see common sense solutions from the Republican Party. We've sort of seen the massive roll-up of debt. That's how we got into this problem. Let's start talking about cutting the deficit and getting down to specifics and bipartisan approaches.
Last question here. Newly minted or newly inaugurated presidents aren't bound to give a State of the Union style address since they just got into office. Why do you think Mr. Obama has chosen to do this? It's not something he had to do.
The conversation that he needs to have is both with the leaders on Capitol Hill, but also with the American people, and that is why I think he's taking this bold step. We've had leaders in the past that have reached out to the American public in order to build the kind of support they need for their plans, for their agenda, and I think that is part of his strategy tonight.
All right, Kerry Donley, great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Well, stay with us here on News Channel 8 for full coverage of tonight's presidential address to